If someone told me a year ago that my marriage would fall apart because of a security camera I barely remembered installing, I would have laughed in their face. But here I am, sitting in my living room at 3 a.m., watching footage of my best friend sneaking into my house while I'm at work, and knowing exactly what he's there for. You know that feeling when your entire world flips upside down in an instant? Yeah, I didn't either, until my neighbor said something that stopped me dead in my tracks. "Your buddy sure visits a lot when you're not home," he joked, leaning casually against the fence as I watered the lawn. At first I laughed it off. I mean, why would I think anything of it? My friend, let's call him Eric, and I have been tight for years. My wife, Sarah, and he got along well too. It was normal. Or so I thought. But that comment stuck with me like a splinter. It nagged at the back of my mind, refusing to let go. Why would Eric be stopping by so often when I wasn't there? And why hadn't Sarah mentioned it? The more I tried to ignore it, the louder that little voice inside my head became, telling me to dig deeper. That's when I remembered the cameras. The ones I had installed around the house a year ago but barely paid attention to. I'd set them up more out of paranoia than necessity, and honestly I'd forgotten they even existed. But now I had a reason to look. I told myself it was nothing, just curiosity, but deep down I already knew something wasn't right. So that night after Sarah went to bed, I sat down at the kitchen table, laptop open, and started scrolling through the footage. At first it was uneventful, just deliveries, the mailman, and Sarah coming and going. Then there he was, Eric, pulling into my driveway, walking up to my door. And not just once. Over the past month there were more clips of him showing up than I could count. My stomach turned as I noticed the timing. Always when I was at work. Always when Sarah was home alone. I kept watching, hoping for some innocent explanation, but the next clip crushed whatever hope I had left. He wasn't just stopping by for a quick visit. He was staying for hours. On one video they were on my porch, laughing like teenagers. Then they disappeared inside together. There it was, undeniable proof that something was going on between them. I didn't need to see more. I closed the laptop, my hands shaking. My best friend. My wife. The two people I trusted most in the world. Betraying me. But I didn't do what most people might expect. I didn't confront her, at least not right away. I realized that this single piece of footage wasn't enough. If I came at her with this and she denied it, she could twist the story or make me doubt myself. No, I needed more. I needed to back this up with undeniable evidence before I made my move. Days after, I ordered 2 small, discreet cameras online, ones that could easily blend into the room without being noticed. A few days later they arrived and I wasted no time setting them up. The first one went in the living room. I tucked it neatly into a corner of the bookshelf, hiding it behind some decorative plants. From that angle, it had a perfect view of the entire room. The second one was trickier. It went in our bedroom, concealed inside a small vent cover near the ceiling. It was the perfect spot, high enough to catch everything and out of sight. As I installed those cameras, I had to know the truth no matter how much it hurt. For the next few days and weeks, I monitored the live feed obsessively, checking my phone whenever I had a free moment. I kept telling myself that maybe I was wrong, that nothing would happen. But deep down I knew better. And then it happened. One afternoon while I was at work break, I decided to check. The living room camera had picked up movement. I opened the video and froze. There they were, my wife and my so-called friend, on the couch, so loved up and kissing passionately. My heart pounded as I watched them stripe themselves with so much intensity. It didn't stop there. I forced myself to watch as they made their way to the bedroom and continued. I switched to the feed from the second camera. The evidence I needed, the evidence I dreaded, was right in front of me, live and unfiltered. I sat there, staring at the screen, heartbroken and angry. I had all the proof I needed to confront them, or do whatever I decided to do next. Confronting them wouldn't be enough. No, I needed to hit him where it hurt. Not my wife. Him. Eric. And that's when the plan started forming in my mind. If he thought he could betray me and get away with it, he was dead wrong. And I knew exactly where to start. His wife. I began visiting my friend more often than usual, under the guise of casual hangouts. But the truth was, my reasons had little to do with him and everything to do with her. His wife. She was stunning, every bit as beautiful as my wife, if not more so. Even after having a child, she didn't carry the tired, worn look many mothers do. Her figure was as sharp as ever. I would time my visits carefully, usually in the late afternoons or early evenings, when I knew she'd be home. Whenever my friend stepped out of the room, whether to grab a drink or take a phone call, I made the most of those moments. I'd start with small talk, easy conversations about her day or something lighthearted about her child. As our conversations grew more comfortable, I began to slip in compliments, testing the waters. "You're incredible, you know," I said once. "Balancing everything you do and still looking this good? That's no small feat." She laughed, but I saw the faint blush creep into her cheeks. It was subtle, but it was there. It didn't take long for our conversations to move beyond those brief moments in her living room. Late one evening, after one of my visits, I decided to message her. It started innocently enough. A thank you for the tea she'd served me, a casual joke about her husband's questionable choice in home decor. But soon our chats became more personal. One night, after I joked about my own flaws in the kitchen, she confessed something that caught me off guard. She told me she knew about her husband's infidelity. "I've known for a while," she typed. "I just stay for my child. It's easier this way." I stared at the screen for a moment, processing her words. There was no bitterness in them, just a quiet resignation that made her seem even more vulnerable. I knew then that my plan was working. She wasn't just lonely, she was stuck, emotionally stranded in a life she felt she couldn't escape. From that point on, our interactions changed. The flirty undertones in our conversations grew stronger. I'd tease her about how her husband didn't deserve someone like her, and she'd fire back with playful jabs about my own flaws. We built an unspoken connection, one that felt easy and natural even though it was anything but. When I visited the house, I began lingering longer, finding excuses to return even if my friend left for an errand or a work meeting. We'd talk freely then, no barriers, no pretenses. I made sure to position myself as someone she could rely on, a good listener and attentive friend. It had been about a month since we started texting regularly. Then one evening she sent me a message that changed everything. She told me she'd had a massive fight with her husband before he left on a business trip. She finally found out that her husband was having an affair with my wife, and the pain in her words was clear. She felt betrayed, angry, and hurt. I saw an opportunity, maybe the moment I'd been waiting for. I drove over to her house that night. I told myself it was to comfort her, to be the friend she needed. But deep down, I knew what I was doing. When she opened the door, her eyes were red from crying and her voice was shaky. She looked broken, and for a moment I felt guilty for taking advantage of that. But then she invited me in. We sat on the couch and she started talking. Her words spilled out, about her fight, about how her husband never seemed to care anymore, about how she felt trapped in a marriage that only existed for the sake of the kid. I listened, nodding, offering soft words of reassurance. And then there was silence. A long, heavy silence. She looked at me, and before I could think it through, I leaned in. It wasn't planned, not exactly, but it felt like the natural progression of everything we'd been building up to. She didn't pull away. In fact, she leaned in too. And then it happened. It wasn't rushed or clumsy, it was intense, filled with a kind of passion I hadn't felt in years. Afterward, as we lay there, I couldn't ignore the mix of emotions running through me. On one hand, I felt victorious, like I'd finally taken a step toward getting even with my so-called friend. But on the other hand, I felt something else. Something deeper. I enjoyed it, not just the physical part but the connection. I felt wanted in a way I hadn't in years. And that scared me. What I thought would be a one-time thing didn't stop there. We started finding reasons to meet, late-night phone calls, stolen moments whenever we could, even in the car. Every time we were together, it felt more intimate, more addictive. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about her, about us. And that terrified me because I didn't know where this would end, or if I even wanted it to. Months after the fling became regular, I'll never forget the moment she said those words. We were lying in the dim light of a hotel room, the air thick with the weight of everything we'd done. She turned to me, her eyes searching mine like she was looking for permission to dream. "You've given me a reason to feel alive again," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't feel invisible when I'm with you." It hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't planned for any of this to get so complicated. What started as a way to hurt my so-called friend had become something I couldn't control. She wasn't just the lonely, neglected wife of the man who betrayed me anymore. She was someone who looked at me like I was the answer to everything she'd been missing. Then she said it, "We could have a future, you know? Your wife was cheating on you with him. You have proof. You don't owe her anything." Her words were like a punch to the gut. She was right. I had every reason to walk away from my wife, but was that what I wanted? What started as revenge now felt like something much bigger. I didn't know if I was using her to fix my broken ego or if I was actually falling for her. The lines were too blurry to tell. But things weren't as simple as leaving one life for another. She started dropping hints, subtle at first. "What if we didn't have to sneak around anymore?" she asked one day, her tone casual but her eyes full of meaning. Another time she said, Imagine if we could just start fresh, somewhere new, away from all of this. She didn't say it outright, but I knew what she was asking me to do. Leave my wife, leave everything I'd built, and take the leap with her. The problem was, I wasn't sure I could do it. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to. My wife had betrayed me, that much was clear, but we built a life together. A house, memories, routines. Did I want to throw all that away? Could I even trust this new relationship, knowing how it started? And yet, when I was with her, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Something real, something alive. She wasn't afraid to tell me what she wanted, and that kind of honesty was intoxicating. But her boldness also made things more dangerous. Every time she hinted at a future together, it became harder to hide what we were doing. If anyone found out, it would destroy everything. I was caught in the middle, torn between a life I wasn't sure I wanted anymore and a connection that could either set me free or ruin me completely. On one side of the scale was the life I'd built with my wife, a life that now felt like a fragile glass, already cracked but not yet shattered. On the other side was the raw, undeniable connection I'd found with her. My friend's wife. It wasn't just passion, it was something deeper. Something I hadn't felt in years. But what was I supposed to do now? Lay everything bare and burn the bridges to the ground? Or sweep it all under the rug, pretend none of this ever happened, and carry on with my wife like the past months didn't exist? Let's say I reveal the truth. I'd have to look my wife in the eye and admit my betrayal. Not just that I knew about her affair, but that I went behind her back and had one of my own, with her lover's wife, no less. The fallout would be nuclear. Our families? Destroyed. Friendships? Gone. Then there was the other path. I could end the affair. No goodbyes, no dramatic final words, just stop seeing her. Cut it off and try to force my wife to end things with him. After all, she didn't even know I knew about her affair. Maybe we could rebuild. Maybe this was just one of those storms marriages go through, and in time, we'd find our way back to what we used to be. But even as I thought that, my stomach churned with doubt. So what's it going to be? Tear everything down or try to salvage the pieces of a life that already feels like it's already broken?